Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for The American Season 3, Episode 6, Born Again. And I really haven't had too many problems with this season. I really haven't. And once again, this episode, I have to say, it was good, but that's about it. It wasn't great. It really wasn't. There actually were some slow scenes in this episode I didn't really appreciate as much as the others. I didn't like as much. I wasn't really as invested. I wasn't really focusing either because I didn't care as much about this episode. I think there was some stuff in here that just was kind of boring, honestly. And the AV Club gave this episode a B, and I'd have to agree that, yeah, definitely a B. It was not perfect. Last week's episode was so much better, and this still is a fantastic season. This didn't ruin the season by any means, but it just was sort of, it was basically the ARPANET of this season. I mean, ARPANET last year was an episode that I thought was just okay, and this episode was good, but that's really it. It wasn't great. Let's just get into it. So, I really love the way it starts, though, because we start with Philip and Elizabeth sitting in church, and they actually are starting with Paige's baptism, and they listen to a sermon from Pastor Tim about how this is such a great thing for her, and how they should be happy for her, and Tim gushes about how Paige gives her everything for her every political protest they've ever attended. He raves about how she's always at the front of the line shouting and protesting, and Philip and Elizabeth are watching as Tim dunks Paige, and you can see the look in her face. They're not really happy about this, but they wanted, they're doing it so that way they can delay her recruiting and everything. So the congregation cheers and claps, and Paige smiles proudly at her parents, and I thought that was a good way to start the episode. So Elizabeth meets with a new recruit for training, and he's practicing memorizing license plates at a single glance. They pull over in the parking lot, and he tells Elizabeth that he's been practicing his surveillance on a kid in one of his English speaking classes, and he thinks that they may be working for the CIA, and Elizabeth says that she will look into it, but he can't follow him anymore unless she tells him to. So I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe he will be a possible replacement for Paige, because of course they're trying to do whatever they can to not have Paige be recruited, of course. So I thought this guy was possibly going to be one of the recruits for that. So at home, Philip is then with Paige, and she's hanging up posters in her room, and he tells her that he's really proud of her for being who she is and strong. I like this line overall. He's proud that she stuck to her church beliefs, even though he and her mom made it difficult for her. And, I mean, especially that whole outburst he had last season, I really enjoyed the scene, definitely. Philip lectures her about always remembering to be her own person and be true to herself, and Elizabeth reassures him that she already is, and that is why she goes to church. So I thought that was definitely really good. Let's get to Stan this episode. Stan, I have to say, was kind of boring. I usually really like Stan's plot, but I was kind of bored by Stan, I have to say. This one scene with Stan and his date Tori, I thought was kind of boring. They're explaining to Henry that she met Stan at a summit where they get in touch with their spirituality, and Paige begins talking about her church to Tori, and I thought it was interesting that Tori's into, she still is also into church and things like that. I find that very interesting. I feel like it's going to end up being a lot of characters on the show, definitely. She's gushing about how she just got baptized. It really just shows how much Paige cares about this, and Henry's still stuck on the spiritual summit, and he won't stop asking questions about it because he wants to really know what it is, and Stan explains that it is where grown-ups go to work on their problems with other grown-ups. And I like seeing that, but of course we already knew this stuff. This is nothing new. And I have to say, while I enjoyed this scene, it just kind of slowed the episode down for me. I understand that the show needs to be slow-paced. I really haven't had too many problems with that, but this just kind of slowed things down for me. I kind of had a problem with that. I haven't really had too many problems, but that, in my opinion, I didn't like the way it just slowed the episode down. I thought it was kind of just a little bit slow. So Nina's still in a jail cell with Evie, and of course she's trying to get close to Evie so she can get out of there, and Evie is trying to get her to eat and tells her that she needs to stay strong, and Nina cries that she has no one and she left her husband even though he was begging her not to. And Nina's still trying to get information from Evie about her boyfriend. She asks her cellmate if she still believes in love, and again, their dynamic was very strong in this episode. I definitely enjoyed their dynamic overall, and Nina confesses that when she was in America, she had two lovers, and she loved them both, but in the end, they loved their countries more than they loved her. So basically, that didn't really work out. So Stan heads home with Tori. They begin making out on the couch, and Stan is spacing out and staring at pictures of Sandra and Matthew, and it really shows like he still really does care about him, and he kind of feels like he shouldn't really be doing this. And Tori's kissing him. She can tell that he isn't paying attention to her. Tori demands to know from if Stan is thinking about his ex-wife. He corrects her and says that Sandra is still his wife, and he has never been in his house with any other woman but Sandra. And I like that he was straight up with her. I thought that was really good. I definitely really enjoyed it. I thought that overall, I definitely really enjoyed. Now let's get to my least favorite aspect of this episode. Phillip and Kimmy. I really like their dynamic in the past 2 episodes. I didn't like it here. I really didn't. I didn't like the way it was handled. I thought it was kind of just... I didn't like the way it was handled here. Because Phillip goes to Kimmy's house to hang out with her. They smoke weed, listen to music together. He plays Pink Floyd for her and tells her to lay back, close her eyes, and take it in. And she raves about how amazing the band is, and then says that she doesn't want to listen anymore. She wants to go take a bath by herself. And he promises to wait for her until she's done. And once Kimmy goes in the bathroom, she shuts the door. He rushes downstairs, opens the door, and lets a woman inside. The woman goes into Kim. Now, you can tell that this woman is working for him. She's doing whatever Phillip told her to do. I didn't know what she was going to do here, but you can tell that she is working with him. So she goes into Kimmy's father's study and prepares to set up a recording device. And you don't know exactly what she's going to do, but I thought that was kind of interesting. So this next scene I thought was actually really interesting because Elizabeth's sitting in the garage smoking cigarettes. One of the things I did like about this episode is that this episode focused not as much on Phillip and Paige as more than it did on Elizabeth and Paige. Because, I mean, we haven't really gotten to see, with all the focus on Phillip, we needed to see more of Elizabeth's perspective of why she thinks it is a good idea for Paige to be recruited. And I like seeing that in this episode. Definitely. That was one of my pros, definitely, of this episode. I thought this was a very good scene. Elizabeth's sitting in the garage smoking cigarettes. Paige walks in and tells her to hide the smoke, and Paige laughs at her and says she already knows she smokes and she doesn't have to hide it, but she should know that it is bad for her. And Elizabeth's raving about how grown-up Paige is, and she promises that she will support her no matter what, and Paige asks her mom what she really thinks about church. And Elizabeth laughs that there are one too many potlucks, and she admits that church isn't really her thing, and Paige thinks that Elizabeth should try praying sometime, and I like that she said there, because, I mean, maybe Elizabeth does need God. I think that is kind of what Elizabeth needs. I can understand why Paige is saying that, and I think in some ways, yeah, she does need God. And I like that scene overall, because it just showed their different ways of living, and I thought that was very well done. I definitely really enjoyed that, especially knowing how against religion Elizabeth is. I definitely really enjoyed that. I thought that was a very good scene. So Kimmy comes out of the bathroom. She's in a towel, and Phillip rushes. I have to say that, as I said, the girl who plays Kimmy is extremely attractive. She's not as attractive as Holly Taylor, but damn, is she attractive. He gives her a pair of earrings and says that he was just getting her a surprise from her car, and Kimmy kisses him, drops her towel, and when she did that, I'm like, no, please do not tell me they're not going to have sex. They are not going to go this route. Phillip has standards, you're not going to give in. And I like that he didn't, because if they would have, I would have been very upset at the show, because it's out of character for Phillip. He is a gentleman. He wouldn't do that. Now, yeah, he's having sex with Martha, but that's very different than having sex with a 15-year-old. Because if he saw that, he'd just picture Paige. I mean, that'd just be weird. If him and Kimmy would have had sex, he would have just pictured Paige. I know that. And that's basically what he sees when Kimmy takes down the towel. And Philip explains that he's been getting to church and he wants to be a better man, so they need to take things slow. And he hugs her and reassures her that it's not her, it's him. And he thinks that she is perfect. And I like that he was honest with her about it, but at the same time, I mean, that was a really close one. I definitely thought something was going to happen between them, but something didn't, so I was happy it didn't, actually. So meanwhile in prison, Evie is telling Nina about her boyfriend. She says she met him in Brussels and fell in love with him, and then he had her deliver a package, and this is how she wound up and that is how she wound up in jail. And Nina comforts her, tells her that it isn't her fault that her boyfriend used her, and Evie says that it wasn't like that, and she is certain that her boyfriend does love her. So, again, the dynamic between them, not really too much to say there, but Phil returns home, and Elizabeth tells him that the center wants them to follow around the 19-year-old super spy that Hans told her about, and they both laugh at how ridiculous it sounds. Then they open the window in their bedroom so they can smoke weed without their kids smelling it, and Elizabeth then tells Philip about her conversation with Paige, and they both laugh that their daughter wants them to start praying. And Elizabeth worries that Paige is living in a fantasy world, and Philip says that Jesus really came through for him tonight. He told Kim that he couldn't sleep with her because he had to serve Jesus instead, And Elizabeth is relieved that Philip didn't sleep with her, and I like that she told him straight out that she's happy about that. And he says that if the mission drags on and Kim gets older, then he might. And I like that he said that, because, I mean, it's definitely going to drag on. I mean, that was definitely a close one. There was a point there where, like, as I said, I thought they were going to have sex, and they didn't, so I was surprised that they didn't. But at the office, Stan gets some bad news. This is some very bad news. One of his old co-workers, Dave, was killed in a plane crash in the Midwest. And he decides to call Sandra at Arthur's house, but no one picks up, and he gets the answering machine. And meanwhile, Oleg's dad is visiting Nina in prison, and he has brought her food and a bottle of wine. So Philip visits Gabriel and updates him on Kimmy, and Gabriel tells Philip that he needs to check the recording device at Kimmy's house every week instead of every month. And Philip argues that he doesn't know if he can get in every month, and Gabriel says the relationship is going to have progress, and he's going to have to get intimate, and I like that he said that. But the thing is, there's certain lines that Philip does not want to cross. But of course, what did Gabriel tell him last week? Don't let your conscience get the best of you. That's what you need to do. There is a conscience, but you can't let it get the best of you. In a situation like this, you have to leave all your morals aside and just do the job. If Philip has to have sex with her, then he has to have sex with her. If whatever he can do to get at the information, that's what he has to do. So Gabriel changes the subject, tells him that Irena was captured in Brazil and she has a 20-year-old son. And he is a paratrooper in the army, and Irena claims that Philip is the father. And Gabriel reassures Philip that he hasn't told Elizabeth about it, but he has been keeping a close eye on his son for him. That, to me, I thought was stupid. I really did. I'm like, seriously? That's the best you can do? If they do this whole stupid plot with Phil possibly being the father of this son, that's going to be really stupid. And that really, I was just like, seriously? You really went that route? I've really been enjoying these scenes with Gabriel and Philip, and then you just put that in there. No, this conversation should have been about, it should Philip have sexual relations with Kimmy. That's what it should have been about. Not about this son, 20-year-old son that could be Phillips, and I hate that. I didn't like that at all. I thought it was stupid, and just, wow, that was ridiculous. So Sandra and Matthew stop by the house to see Stan. They both hug him and apologize. They heard about Dave's death on the news, and Dave invites them to go to the memorial service and basically, with him in Chicago in a few weeks, but Sandra says she doesn't think that will happen. It shows that even though they're close, she really doesn't want anything to do with him, and that's simply because she just doesn't. So, Elizabeth has dinner with Gabriel, and this scene, this I loved. I loved everything with Elizabeth. I didn't really like this stuff. I have to say, this episode, I loved the stuff with Elizabeth. I didn't really care about the stuff with Philip. The stuff with Philip, the Phillips plot, I didn't really like as much. So, Elizabeth has dinner with Gabriel and shows him photos of the spy that Hans found, and Gabriel says that Hans is onto something, and Elizabeth may have just stumbled across the South African terrorist, and the anti-apartheid movement is sweeping college campuses, and they may be playing a hit. And the conversation soon changes to Philip and Paige, and basically Gabriel worries that Philip is losing faith in him, and I like what Elizabeth decides to do here. She decides that even though Philip does not want to do this, she is moving forward with recruiting Paige. She wants to do it, and I knew this was going to happen. I knew that they were going to each have their own ideas, but that I love. I love this plot. I think it is very strong, and they're handling it perfectly. Really, they are. Because, I mean, again, they both don't really want this, but of course, Elizabeth thinks that it is what they have to do, and if that means that she needs to not have Philip work with her, then so be it. So I definitely really thought that was really crazy, definitely. I really enjoyed that, though. I thought it was a very good twist and definitely a very good way to take the episode. It also brings about the best cliffhanger of the season, which I will definitely get to. So after Nina's dinner, guards come in, drag Evie out of the cell, kicking and screaming. She shouts to Nina, asks her what she did. Nina turns her head, ignores her. She's dragged out of the cell, and as much as I didn't care for this plot in this episode, because I really didn't, I thought that was a very dramatic scene. Because, I mean, Evie has no idea that Nina was only doing this to get close to her. She wasn't trying to get close to her. She just wanted information out of her. And Evie is going to feel like shit now. And I honestly felt bad for Evie. One of the things I like this show does is that it tries to justify what they are doing is right. I mean, can you really justify that? I mean, again, it's her job. It's what she was told to do. She gets information, she gets out of jail. It's that simple. But there is sort of some moral things going on. I don't think Nina really cares though. That's my personal thing. Is that I don't really think Nina gives a shit if she's going against what they told her to do. I don't think she really cares. That's just how I feel. So Philip meets Kimmy after school and he invites her to go somewhere and talk. She tries to blow him off and says that she has a lot of stuff to do. He begs her and says that he can't stop thinking about her, and Kimmy caves and invites him over to her house. Her parents won't be home until late at night. They arrive at Kimmy's house and head upstairs, and Philip begins rambling that the reason he can't have sex with her is because she got a girl pregnant and I like that he said that because of course we knew about this whole thing. And I don't really like this though. I mean, he can't tell her the truth, obviously. I understand that. But knowing that this could be true is what really makes me like, oh, this is stupid. Like, I mean, we know that there's that 20-year-old son that could possibly be Phillips, and he obviously can't tell the truth about Paige, but I definitely feel like this could have just been a lie and it couldn't have actually been a real thing. If this would have been a lie, I would definitely enjoyed it more because we know, I mean, the real reason why Philip doesn't want to do it is because he just pictures Paige. I think that's really why he doesn't want to do it. So he got a girl pregnant when she was 17 years old, and he's really messed up right now. And Kimmy comforts him and agrees to pray with him because he actually wants her to do that. And of course, that all went into Paige because he was very controversial with should he do that. And I like that he asked Kimmy to do that because Kimmy honestly needs God. She does. I mean, she's in a bad place right now. Of course, as I said, she's doing drugs. She really is not in the best place right now and kind of needs that guidance from God. And I think that the best place to turn is to God, definitely. So they get down on the floor, hold hands while Philip leads the prayer, and I would like to see it a lot more if we would have taken out that whole got a girl pregnant thing. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. I hope they don't bring it up again because I'm really enjoying the season. That whole thing there is kind of ruining things. So then we get what is, in my opinion, the best cliffhanger of the entire season. The way this was done, I absolutely loved. By far my favorite scene in the episode, and if the rest of the episode would have been this good, I would have absolutely loved this episode. So Elizabeth picks Paige up after school and drives her to a shady part of town. And of course, when she did this, I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen here, but obviously this has to do with recruiting her. She tells Paige that she has to show her something. They go for a walk, and Elizabeth tells Paige about Gregory and how she was a real life activist. And Elizabeth explains she didn't just sing songs and march, she fought in other ways, and sometimes it wasn't legal, but it was right for the greater good. And Elizabeth confesses that she and Philip care about a lot of things. And she tells me there's something special about her, and she could accomplish anything that she wants to. And I love what she says to her. She says, you're more like me than you think you are." And then it cuts to black. And wow, okay, I'm saying it right now. Elizabeth is going to tell her the truth. I'm saying it. She's going to tell her the truth. Philip's not going to find out, but she's going to tell Paige the truth, and I don't know how she's going to react. Paige, I think, is going to be, I don't know how she's going to react to this, but I'm calling it now. Elizabeth's telling her that they are KGB agents, and it's going to get Paige ready without Philip's consent, because again, she's moving forward with this without whether Philip doesn't want to or not. So overall, guys, this was a very mixed episode for me. Elizabeth's stuff was very strong. I loved it. Philip's stuff I did not like. I do not like this whole, is this kid your father? Can we not have this sort of like stupid storyline with like DNA testing? I think it's so stupid. And if a show on the CW did this, I could understand that. If a show that wasn't on cable did this, I could understand it. But the Americans, it has better standards than that, definitely. I don't want them to go this route. I really don't. I think it's a stupid storyline, and I really don't want them to go down that route. I think it's dumb, and I don't like it whatsoever. Stan, I really enjoyed this episode overall. Sandra and Matthew, why do they not want to go to Dave's funeral? I think Sandra just wants to have her own life. She cares about Stan, but she does have her own life, and he needs to understand that he needs to give her her own life. So I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. Evie, I felt so bad for. I really did, because I mean, she doesn't realize that she was played by Nina. She's eventually going to realize it. She's going to be out for revenge on Nina, and that's not going to end well at all. I have to say that was definitely very sad to see. And then I guess the only thing I will talk about is Kimmy. Is Philip gonna have sex with Kimmy? It doesn't seem like at this point it's likely, but of course Gabriel told him to put all those morals aside, and I definitely want to see more of that. I don't want to see this turn into whose child is this? I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be a legit, I don't want it to be a custody battle. I find it stupid. I don't like plots like that. I think they can do so much better than that, and I really hope that they don't go in that direction. If they abandon that next week, I will be perfectly fine with that. If we can pretend that that plot did not happen this week, yeah, I'd be fine with that. I really would. I don't care if there's this mother that if there's this 20-year-old son that could be Phillips. I think it's stupid, and I think it's just them running out of ideas. So, kind of upset with this episode, honestly. Kind of disappointing because I've loved this season to death and I really have had no problems with it. I think this has been the strongest season of the show. It still is the strongest season of the show. This episode just had a lot of flaws, and I wasn't expecting the season to have flaws, really. I wasn't, and I think that's why I was as disappointed by this episode as I was. So, let me know what you guys saw this episode. I'll see you guys in my next video. Again, definitely let me know what you guys saw this episode. What this episode is, as I wouldn't say it was boring. It definitely was not boring. It wasn't boring, but just things that happened in it just seemed kind of unbelievable, especially because this is such a realistic show. I don't know if they had to take things in the direction they had to take them in. That's really all I have to say. That's my only complaint with this episode. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for the series premiere of American Crime. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.